Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Apoorv Malik, and I welcome you all in today's webinar session on behalf of TNV Academy. First of all, let me briefly introduce our speaker of the day. For today's webinar, we are glad to have Mr. Ajay Bajpai with us as the guest speaker. The topic with which he is here today with all of us is documentation for integrated management system. Mr. Ajay Bajpai has audited several organizations for the integrated management system standards and has assisted many others in their implementation within their organizations. Our distinguished speaker, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, has done his bachelor's in engineering in metallurgy stream. He is also a lead auditor in ISO 9001, 14001, 45001, 37001, 22000, 27001, 13485, 22301 and 50001 standards respectively. He has an industrial experience of around 38 plus years in field of manufacturing, quality control, quality assurance, design services and technical testing. He has been imparting training to a number of organizations, entrepreneurs and individuals on various topics related to ISO terminologies and how ISO standards are implemented within their organizations. It was just a brief introduction of our guest speaker today. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ajay Bajpai. I may request Mr. Ajay Bajpai now to please take over and start the webinar.
Good morning, Apoorv and team of participants. It is a pleasure to be here on this occasion of having a discussion on to the documented information for IMS, Integrated Management System. You see, our aim is to share our knowledge, which as an organization we have gained with the team of auditors, professional. Many of them are full-time with us. We have got many contracted auditors and trainers. So we have got a huge experience of many decades with us. And whatever we have learned into the practical situation by being in the ground level, conducting the audit for last 35 years when the document review was one activity, then pre-assessment audit used to take place, then the final audit used to take place. And to share with you, there is to be a lot of follow-up audits starting from the situation of document review itself. I remember I have conducted 50 plus audits into the document review itself, where the new audits were to be conducted. So it is a very strange situation in today's perspective, but we can discuss it as we go on for discussion. You see, understanding the documentation itself was a big challenge in the very beginning of the 1990s, because certification started late in 1987. But by the time we started conducting it globally on a large scale, it was the beginning of 1990 or so. So everyone that time used to think and had a vision. The documentation is what ISO is all about. Today also, some of the organizations who want to attempt for the certification in the very beginning, their concepts are it is document, document and document. It is document, of course, because without documentation nothing happens. Like yesterday, we have seen the speech of our Honorable Prime Minister from Redford on to the occasion of 75th this thing of our independence. So unless he has the documentation available with him, he does not read much. That is his capability. He does not read much, but in between he refers the document. Then only he can give a speech. If documents are there, then only the data is created. Then only he can make a plan for next 25 years. So same happens with the organization. So documentation, if they are there, they help the organization, number one, to know what is already existing. Some documents are already existing into the company, because any company today who has been able to survive after the great shocks of COVID-19 and the shocks of the wars going on globally, they are having some or the other documentation to run their organization. Okay. So first of all, this myth should be out from the minds of the all trainer and auditors globally that, oh, we have gone to this company for audit or to have a meeting, but they had nothing in documentation. So their concepts are not correct actually, because we have been to all types of companies, thousands of companies. I personally have gone And my team has gone to many thousands companies globally in last 35-40 years, where even the ISO was not there. We used to work with inspection certification, we used to work with respect to product certification, we used to do, the API approvals, API certification. We were only doing QA/QC job that time, but organizations have documents. So all organizations have some documentation. It is to be related to the clauses and the functions and the organization requirement, so that they can develop a effective documentation which will help them in what is the requirement of the standard, and management is value addition, continual improvement, a reduction in rejections, reduction in vulnerability to the various unwanted documentation. So this is all has been the concept. Now when we talk of IMS documentation, IMS generally, the moment with respect to ISO certification, the moment we are going into more than one standard, it is called IMS. And most popular IMS system globally is consisting of 9,001, 14,000 and 45,000. Almost 70% of organization, when we talk of IMS, they are consisting of 9, 14 and 45. There are other type of organization also where 27,000 may also be there, FSMS may also be there. It may be a combination of 9, 22, 22, 14, 45, 19 or whatever. So whenever we are going for more than one standard, documentation is called IMS documentation. Okay. So it depends upon the documentation type, can be in any way. Many organizations, when they are having new and trained auditors, they get into some issues and problems because the auditors themselves don't understand the documentation concept and requirement of documentation. In our teams also, many times we have got observer auditors, we have got technical experts. So their understanding of documentation system is much low. So they don't understand the implications, but documentation means a lot to the company. Your one observation asking a company to reduce or increase the frequency by way of documentation and by communication to the interested parties can make hell lot of change into the organization. They may have to invest few lakhs of rupees, few thousands of dollars to correct that NC. So writing a NC or observation, it can be a simple job for an auditor who is not fully trained and he is undergoing training, or sometimes he has been misled by situations and conditions, but organizations suffer if a wrong documentation is created. So documentation depends upon so many things. As we can see, it is the complication of the processes and interaction. There are organizations who have complexity into the processes. One organization you can see which is simple. They get some material, they do assembly and sell into the market. So their complexity of process is very minimum. On 1 to 10 scale, it may be 1 or 2. An organization who is going to do an assembly by involving 10 suppliers, 10 subcontractors, utilizing the inputs of the customers as customer supplied products, having a variety of scopes, having variety of units. And we had organization where a particular component in a workshop of 50 by 100 meter had to travel 5 kilometers before it was converted as a final product. So this kind of complex situation, complexity of processes and their interaction require different kind of a documentation. And ultimately, it also depends upon the competence of the persons. When we go through many, high-tech software organization, digitization support which they are providing to the multinationals, their competency is on a very high level. They may be at a scale of 0 to 10 at 9 or 9.5. So they require documentation in a different forms. They don't need hard copies, they don't need displays, they don't need it to be into their hand, they don't need it to be in their pockets. It can be run through all SAP, ERP and their various certified softwares. So the documentation is critical, it is important, and it becomes a data bank from the company. When we look it from the organizational knowledge point of view, this is something which can become a library for the organization, and newcomers will be able to adjust to the working operations of the company if they have clear and good documentation available in front of them in whatever form. So this is how we see the documentation is very, very important for the not only for ISO certification of IM standard, but also for the functioning of the organization for many years to come, and gain the knowledge and experience of the existing documents and develop it further. So let's go. What are IMS documentation? Many documents are common when we talk of multiple standards into organization 9, 14, 45, 27, 22, AVMS, BCMS, and so on. Now, most of the organizations are going for standards as a IMS if they are falling into that kind of a category. So, they attempt to the common documentation because the complexity of documentation is reduced. We will see it further into discussions. But what are the common documents? Context of organization. Clause 4. It is to be addressed into all kind of standards. So IMS documents definitely have the interested party. Interested parties are involved into all standards. So they are another common element. Systems and processes. No organization can run without effective documenting and effective handling and effective monitoring of the systems and processes. Okay. So it's again a common for leader and commitment, leadership and commitment. Every organization need to have leader as per clause 5, and their commitment needs to be documented specifically with respect to the documentation. Unless the cross-functional team and top management is involved into getting a effective and good documentation, whether they do it themselves or by utilizing a consultant, they need to get involved and they have to show their commitment. Yes, this is the document, it is a draft document, this is the document I have reviewed, this is the document now I am approving, but that approval is never a final approval. The concept should be very clear. No document is there into organization forever because people are changing, their competence is changing, machines are changing, technology is changing, customer requirements are changing. So documentation requirements should always keep on changing, will always need an updation. Then IMS policy. Quality policy have certain elements, environment policy have a few more elements, health and safety policy, food safety policy require few other elements to be brought into the statement and the formulation of policy. So IMS policy, whatever standards we are applying for today as an organization or whatever standards we are implementing and going for certification will have inputs from these various standards, quality, health, safety, environment, or FSMS into the IMS policy. The formulation has to be done like that. The communication display has to be done like that. Then organization, role, responsibilities, and authority. Organization cannot run without this particular requirement. But more so when we are attempting IMS standards into the organization, the roles responsibility needs to be more clearly identified and defined because now we are talking of quality, health safety, environment, food safety into the organization. So different roles to be applied, different roles to be documented in the way the organization is running. I said in the first thing, depending upon competence of people, one competent IMS coordinator can be good for running and documenting all the IMS systems and documentation in a particular organization. But the same thing may not happen with another organization. The complexity is of the highest level, maybe 9.9 level complex situation is there into the processes and the systems are being implemented. So they may have two coordinators. They may have three coordinators if it is a multi-locational, multinational organization. So it all depends. Top coordinator, management coordinator, EMS coordinator, coordinator of QMS in Australia, coordinator of EMS in Timbuktu, coordinator of food safety in India. So it all depends upon what are the functions and scope of the organization. So we need to define it accordingly, not just by writing something, but looking at what is the practical situation of the organization, what are their functions, how they are functioning, what are the products and functions they have. What is the proven CPK and machine capabilities and the personal capacity they have. Accordingly, it is defined, and the authorities are with respect to that documented and defined into the manual procedure or whatever documentation they have or into the software. Then risk and opportunity. This is again an element which is everywhere into the organization, every nook and corner this is found. So we need to analyze it with respect to IMS documentation and implementation utilizing the effective risk and opportunity for IMS documentation. Then IMS objective. We have done so much above 7 elements we have defined, but now how we will meet those requirements? Unless we have got IMS objectives, smart IMS objectives, I always say, we will not be able to achieve the intent of our IMS documentation. So, language should be good, they should be specific to the product and processes, there should be target and responsibility. Then IMS system documentation is done effectively. Then we move further. More common elements of IMS. In fact, all elements, clauses, references are interlinked somewhere or the other. But we are discussing the high points of the common documentation. Infrastructure. Without infrastructure, company cannot run. So we need a common infrastructure for running quality, environment, health and safety system into the company. So it needs to be documented accordingly. Competence. Competence of the team with respect to the standard which we are going to apply needs to be taken care and addressed and defined accordingly. So competence is another very critical area when we are going to conduct the documentation of the company. In the beginning of year 1990s and late 1990s, we have seen some companies were having flow charts. Some new auditors went to the company and they said, "Sir, what are these flow charts? They don't have defined many things." So a team of senior auditors then started discussing. The aim is not to see that documents are suiting the auditors. Aim is to see that they should suit and they should meet the requirement as per the competence of the person available. If team of the client is competent enough to deal everything with software, everything by using their mobile application, we should be able to audit, and we as an auditor should be competent to study their competency and then make observations on or see whatever is the output of the audit or documentation. Then communication, whatever is being documented, number one should be communicated. And if I go on a reverse way, whatever is the way of communication of the organization, the established processes they have as on date, they should be documented so that our clause requirement of clause 6, 7, 8, whatever interrelation we have into communication system, they are documented effectively. Another common element is emergency preparedness and response. Globally, people talk about mock drills. That is the concept. This is much beyond that. We had a discussion, we had a seminar, webinar on this particular subject, but this is also common to many standards. So emergency preparedness needs to be documented effectively, the frequency, the method, the checking of effectiveness of mock drills, the competent team, the trained team, with respect to whatever standards we have needs to be documented so that the team can follow what has been documented and what has been implemented can be linked to what has been documented. So it is what is being documented, being implemented, what is documented, it checked with respect to implementation and gaps are to be filled. And then we go into a revision situation, we'll study it later. Then comes internal audit. This is another a common element for all management systems. In fact, one of our quality guru and many quality gurus have said internal audit is one technique, one technology, one method, one science which had changed the world. World could not sustain the sustainability development goals set as set by UN can go on only when an effective internal audit system is established in whatever we plan into the house, in the family, into the organization, into the laboratory, globally, unless we are having a principle followed of PDCA, which is very closely linked to the internal auditing system, where trained auditors are used to conduct the internal audit. So internal audit, if it is effectively documented by utilizing the competence of the team and trained team, then the results are seen very, very clearly in the positive direction. Same way, Management review is another common element. Environment review, health safety review, quality management review, software management review, whatever we call it, it is ultimately the management review in clause 9. So that is again a common element, and by way of documenting a good management review agenda, by addressing a good management review procedure, which takes into consideration the requirement of the standard which we are attempting to. Many organizations in third-party audits, we see there are 4 standards. 3 are very effectively addressed into management review agenda, and minutes are very well formulated. Fourth one is very weak. So what to do? So these are the kind of situations we see into the third-party audit. If management review meeting has considered the requirements, the key points of all the standards which we are attempting for certification or for improvement, then management review will take us into the desired direction. Then improvement, clause 10 is again the theme of the standard, the theme of all the standards, the theme of all SDGs available globally as part of sub clauses. We need to attempt this as a common element, and documentation also then needs to be done by addressing the requirements and theme that yes, we need to improve upon the efficiency of all the standards which we are attempting in the organization today. So these were the common requirements of the IMS documentation. We have, or we can have more common elements, but these are the high points which we have discussed just now. What are the desired results? Why we are discussing of IMS documentation? Documentation is simplified. Simplified in the way, I remember when hard copy documentations were being done and IMS started, companies used to have 3 set of manuals, 3 set of procedures, or 4 set of manuals, 4 set of procedures, which was really complicated. We were also 3 or 4 auditors doing different, standard audit. So that was the concept, which were very time consuming, costly, and not bringing the desired result, because the system implementation, many clauses are common, many functions are common, many implementation principles are common, management principles are common for implementation of the IMS standard. So documentation needs to be simplified by utilizing the IMS technology, I would say. Training can be done as a common element. I mean, the organizations have been training. They have initially gone for certification of 9,000. Quality training is going on. Then EMS training is going on. Then ISMS training is going on. Then PCMS training is going on. So many organizations, the employees, they were talking heart to heart with us, not mind to mind. They said, "Sir, we will be training all the way into the organization throughout the year. We are training. What is this happen? If we can have a common IMS documentation, then training can also be done in a common way. HR team can call all QMS, EMS, OSAS, ISMS team on same platform, and at least provide the training of common 12, 13, 14, 15 elements into the organization in one go. Then maybe separate training they can organize separately depending upon their own planning. But yes, as a common element, it gives hundreds and thousands of benefits. Then common internal team can handle the implementation. When we document it effectively as a common element we used to see when we were going to big organizations where there were employees of 10,000 numbers, 12,000 numbers, big railway units, big airlines unit, big ordnance factory units we have done. They were having QMS internal team, EMS internal team, health safety internal team, and another FSMS team if they had a canteen, because their canteens and colonies also went for certification. We have gone through that situations. So one common team can take care of 70, 80, and 90% requirements of implementation. Internal auditing is simplified. Organizations were doing QMS audit in September, EMS audit in October, ISMS audit in November, and OSAS audit in December. That's fine. But then what they were doing? They were wasting resources. They were not able to, optimize the resources they have. Management review again, the same way. 4 management review, 5 management review we have seen in the organization in last few decades. For last 8-10 years, most of the organizations are now attempting common approach, but earlier it was not so. Still, some new organizations come to us, they want to discuss, they say, sir, we'll initially go for 9,000, then 14,000, then so we say, if you really have a thought that yes, you have to attempt all these standards, maybe within a period of 1 or 2 years, it is our good and humble situation and request for your own benefit that attempt them together. You will get a lot of benefits. So the repeatability of activity is controlled. We don't repeat various exercise. Today we are attempting the purchasing requirement with respect to store for the flammable activities, and their documentation being made. Tomorrow we are documenting the quality requirement with respect to MSDS of certain EMS elements, and then tomorrow health and safety with respect to lift handling, lubricating oil into the stores. So we are doing it again and again. We are calling for several meetings. We had organization in some of the automotive companies. The people used to say, sir, we don't do anything. Now for last 2 years, we are only having meetings. We are fed up of these meetings, sir, what to do? So then we started training them and suggesting them then try to utilize a common path, a midway, so that the repeatability is not there. External audits are simplified. I remember we were going into organization for QMS audit in September, pre-assessment of EMS in October, December, the stage 2 audit of EMS, and likewise. So it was tough for us also, going to same organization, same person, same processes. The time consumed was lot, the fees paid by clients was more. Trainers and auditors and the implementers were having a good time, but it was not good for the organizations, and experienced senior trainers and auditors never liked that. It was not a money earning exercise. They thought it is a value addition for the organization. So optimization should be done so that external audits are also simplified. Then overall cost of documentation, implementation, certification reduced. As we discussed just now, that overall costing of the auditing and everything is getting reduced. Internal audit time will be reduced, external audit time will be reduced, documentation time will be reduced, and certification, surveillance, recertification cost will be reduced. So these are the desired results which we are thinking and will keep on thinking coming from IMS documentation if we make a common approach. However, decision is with the top management and their good trainers and good auditors who suggest them. I wish all the best to all of them that they should try to help organization, not think for value addition for them, not getting into a situation where they are not thinking and becoming a good well-wisher for the organization, because ultimately the customer is the king. So we should think good for the organization who is implementing it. So now we go for the planning of documentation. Planning is one activity which is going to be the basis for the documentation. Again, as I said in the first slide, depending upon the complexity, processes, nature of the work, and all, we decide what kind of documentation needs to be done and how report format should be developed. Hardware, software, whatever way they are going to do it, they need to start doing by understanding the concept. See, most of the organization which come new for the standards today, and when we saw 30 years back, they were coming for certification. Most of the complications were created into documentation system, whether individual standard documentation or IMS documentation. The concepts of revision number, the concept of dates, the concept of form, the concept of format, the concept of record, concept of register, concept of obsolete, concept of distribution, circulation. They were always the most confusing elements into the IMS system so far, and it will remain. I am 100% sure, because the new organization comes, they look at only their practical processes and systems of implementation and manufacturing and service part. Their concept and their concern for documentation is very, very low, and it will remain the same, which we see into the surveillance audits of recertification. Initially, they develop good documentation, but as the progress goes, as their organization getting into more and more productionized mode, concepts are getting reduced to our documentation, and once certified, they start concentrating more on these things. So there are problems, and still many organizations will have non-conformities into documentation system because they don't follow it at a later stage. Initially, they have to do it because they are looking for becoming a certified unit, becoming accredited training organization, or becoming accredited certification body. It is true for everyone because they are human beings everywhere. They may be competent, they may be less competent. Management may be involved, may not be involved, may not be too much involved. It all depends upon the organization. Then we need to provide effective training to the team of documentation. And I say top management, board of directors, auditors, and implementer. When sometimes we have worked as a trainer and a consultant in some of the organizations 25 years back, I always made it a point that I will first start the awareness training with the board of directors. Unless they understand, unless the top management understand the importance and the criticality of documentation, the entire organization will fail. They will undergo follow-up audit, NCs and NCs. Organization don't understand the cost of NC. If one NC is raised, unfortunately, if it's a major NCRs, there are organizations who spend few lakhs, few $1,000 to close that before they are accredited or certified. So this is a big issue which many people don't understand because this is an indirect cost. We have sessions going on, direct and indirect costing of documentation. We will talk someday of that. But unless this team is trained, the documentation will not be effective, it will not be practical, it will be there just a bad shadow of the organization, I call. Then depending upon the organization, they go for display on website. And there's one particular area which has been very weak and critical with respect to documentation, that is marketing documentation control. Marketing department has always been running away for documents. They say we are happy, we are good, we are very happy, we are excellent, we are doing very good business. But most of the problems into the controlled and uncontrolled set of documentation and business loss has been because of marketing not coming in the front of the documentation. Why? Because there are number of price lists going into the market. One has been running for last 10 years. One has started running 5 years back. One is in effect from last 2 years. It can be true for training organization, certification body, service organization, for petrol pumps, for anybody to say that. So many NCs have been raised into the marketing department. It was difficult to bring them into control, but finally we brought them into control. They have got brochures which were 20 years back and circulating into the market, talking of old models, old part numbers, old codes of the part number, particularly in case of automotive parts manufacturing and marketing. But they have been failing. Order is coming for a old part number, they are supplying new part number. Order came for new part number, they are supplying old part number. There was hardly any system of control of the marketing brochures, marketing price list, marketing team control. So this is a very critical area for the success of the organization. I have seen one of the organization which have been certified for QS 9000 that time. In the very beginning of their organization, within 1 year of their existence, they have been certified. They have been brought to the India Today first place that time. Business leads have come. They were the first organization I have seen who have controlled their marketing documents from the day one. So, and they had a huge success story. They have become a multi-million organization within 5 years. So it depends upon what kind of thoughts an organization have. Then roles and responsibility of the team and top management. It needs to be clearly documented. They are top management. But what are their responsibilities? What are their authorities? They need to be defined very clearly and should be known to the entire organization so that people should not run here and there. Sir, this is the purchase order, you approve it. This is the marketing deviation I have to give, you approve it. If it is documented clearly, then only the organization will be optimizing their resources, their efforts, and then they can offer the right price under the nose of the competitor and they will get the job. Then effective use of software systems and blending them with the existing working of the organization. And as our Prime Minister said, after 25 years, when we celebrate 100 years of of independence. What will happen after 25 years? If we have good documentation, the organization should have that kind of a thought. If they are into IATF system, sometimes because there are organizations who have got 91445 and IATF, so they have business plan which are long-term business plans are up to 5 years. Some organizations have long-term plan for 10 years. They have got multiple, battery units coming, batteries which may be charged at the moon, which can be charged at the Venus, at the universe, where the controlled hydrogen-based vehicles will be running. So what is all that? This is all blending our working with today's working, tomorrow's working, and what will happen after 10 years and 25 years by the training of the young team today globally. So that is what is the concept. That is where I want to link it with SDG, Sustainable Development Global Environment and things of the UN operations going on globally. Also, communication within the organization and all interested parties is required. If our interested parties, our vendors, suppliers, our customers do not know that our particular checklist to deal with them has changed, how they will deal with us, how they will approve our customer order, how they will approve our purchase order, how they will involve the external training new approval, because it is not documented effectively, and even if it documented, it is not communicated. So what trainer is coming today? Who is the trainer for documentation? Who is the trained auditor? All this needs to be documented effectively, and interested parties as required should be communicated so that effective utilization of documentation is done, and we are not using obsolete document which should have gone to scrap. Action plan of implementation of IMS. Now it comes, we have documented the systems of the organization, so now we are getting into the implementation part. When we are going into the implementation, भैया अपना mic off कर दें please. We are implementing the actions as per the procedure policies, IMS policies, IMS objective, and we are sharing the knowledge of the organization. We are discussing the risk associated with IMS. Every document has got a risk. Please understand. If document is not with respect to what we are supposed to implement practically, and it does not match it with the concept, the culture, the organizational behavior of the competent people, we will fail. So there are a lot of risk involved with a documentation being done wrong or over documenting. There are organizations when we go for third party audit, initially they will try to do a lot of documentation done. They will say, yes, we check every piece. Is it practical? Yes, we check one piece after 10 piece. Is it practical? There are ISO standards available for inspection and sampling plans, ISO 2500. Customer inspection plans are there. Our own organization quality plans are there. But initially we will say, sir, we have meeting every day. We have meeting every week. We have meeting every month. No, but that is not a good system. You are just wasting your energy and resources. So do it in respect to what is the requirement of your organization, what is the requirement of your customer, how you can improve upon your productivity, how you can reduce rejection and rework, how you can improve upon CPK values, how productivity can be improved out of a good documentation which is done and now it is being implemented. I again say documentation is not forever. We are very sorry to meet those organizations who don't change their documentation in many years. That means they are going backwards. They are not moving with respect to the technology. New machine has come. Documentation has been done 3 years back with similar kind of a machine. But now this machine which has been purchased new has got different technology. It needs to be supported by a different sample plan. It needs to be supported by a different maintenance plan. We cannot use the same old maintenance plan, same old lubricating oils, same old filters for this. So our documentation with respect to the increasing knowledge, changing objectives, risk and opportunities, IMS changing policy and objective, which should change. I always say which should change. If your IMS documentation remains the same, that means you are not a progressive organization. This cannot happen Many organizations try to discuss with us. We said, please, we can organize a separate training session for this, but today we will demonstrate it to you that since you have utilized the wrong uh, documentation, this is the loss of how much? 25,000 in 1 minute. We are able to demonstrate that to the organizations when we are in workshop and we are conducting the audit, and then they keep silent and then they agree, yes sir, you are right. But many organizations are very, they want to discuss a lot before we come to conclusion. So we said we have demonstrated it to you now. So let's accept this non-conformity and go ahead. Because on documentation, many organizations don't accept. They think their top management had given some policy and that is forever. That will remain for 100 years. But that is not a practical situation. So we need to break their concepts and bring them into a positive note of concept of documentation, which somehow they have missed in the beginning of understanding. That is always possible. They might not have got the right team to document. They might not have got the right consultant to implement. My right is meaning only that they have not understood the concept and the thinking, the theme, the culture, the behavior of the organization. Without going into the root of the understanding, they have just a superficial top level document by using technology of copy paste, by using the technology of this software implemented, that organization, that software being implemented in this thing. Because in today in the market, several softwares are available. I know hundreds of software which are implementing IMS or individual system, but they may not suit the organization unless you study them, unless you make them operational for you. So the software should be useful if you are converting it to suit your requirement, suitable to your organization, not just purchase a software and fail later on and blame your organization and blame the software. So this is how we are getting into the reporting and updation of the implementation of IMS documentation. We further go into more details where yes, documented system is now being implemented. Things are on. So when we are implementing them, our aim is to enhance the effectiveness of the report by always reviewing the facts and figures, doing correct calculations, looking at the report charts, and then see that IMS documentation and reports are being more and more effective. And last but not the least here, involvement of all. वो हम हिंदी में कभी कभी कहते हैं अकेला चना भार नहीं फोड़ सकता. One individual cannot bring lot of improvement. It is always the team, the cross-functional team. Unless we involve the team of the organization, we cannot make bigger and biggest improvement into the IMS documentation. And we cannot see the positive charts and the theme of certification as class 10 being achieved really by utilization of management principles. By all management principles aim towards involvement of all. Then analysis and further action. We understand that after all this documentation, we have fact and figures available in front of us. So we need to keep on studying the data, the charts, the facts, the figures. Internal audit and management review of many organizations have been weak with respect to IMS document control, its function, its revision status, its circulation, its distribution, its obsolete control. Because once they are certified, particularly coming to surveillance and recertification, most of the organizations we have seen start failing because their concentration towards documentation is getting reduced. They feel now they are certified, oh, we are very good, we are excellent. So they start losing the relationship with the documentation. Revisions are done, they are not updated. Master lists are there, they are not updated. We have seen in very good automotive organizations, there is a quality plan, old quality plan. In the file, new quality plan. Only one parameter has changed, but that one parameter is most critical. This is a link to FMEA. This is a link to prototype development of IATA. This is a link to MSA. But if that fails, the product will be rejected and the product lot will be rejected when it is exported to Canada. So what will happen? Millions of money will be lost. We have case studies where millions of tools were just thrown into the depth of the sea because they have not gone with the correct documentation system. In India, particularly, when I talk of many organizations, they have been failing into exports. And other countries also, we have seen they are failing into exports because they have been able to develop very good sample. 5 samples were very good. 10 samples were very good. They went to International Auto Expo. They have displayed. They have got orders. But the moment they come to supply of 1,000 pieces, all 99 pieces failed. Why? Because they were not supported by good documents. What effort they have put into manufacturing of 5 samples, the same documentation support, the same sample plan, same frequency, same machine capacity, same machine lubrication, same machine run charts were not utilized when they were manufacturing 1,000 or 1 million pieces. So they have failed drastically. So we always believe effective control into the by trained IMS auditors into internal auditing, by trained IMS team for review of management review meeting, by trained auditors for IMS for categorization, classification, root cause, corrective action implementation by way of management review meetings, and their improvement and monitoring further will only make a good IMS documentation will bring improvements into the organization. All this we are doing with one theme, one concept: improve the organization, improve the individuals, improve the machines, improve the process, improve the products, improve the capability of the organization, follow PDCA, follow management principles, link it to the IMS standards, critical part, and make a document by a practical study of the team, do a good gap analysis by a team who is trained, who understand the importance of documentation. Understanding the concept of importance is very important, particularly I always say for the top management team, because if they understand and if they guide the team appropriately, if they give them good training, many organizations have a lot of problems when we go into surveillance and recertification because of what? Their key team who was into documentation implementation have either been promoted or they have left the organization or they have shifted to another unit. So they get into a lot of problems. So if we can control all this by utilizing all the clauses effectively, because documentation is into every clause, every function, every walk of our life, every country can survive only if they have good documentation done at all level of the functioning of their mantralaya, their ministry, their implementation. Even then, when they are going for conversing into the political levels, the documented data is very important because it is a trend which comes out of effective and good document analysis, and then they tell which direction to go for. So that way documentation is very important. Now, if we have understood all this, then the organization will go for ISO certification. They will apply to various certification bodies for certification to IMS standards. We have got the certification bodies into our group. There are a few more also, but the main ones are here. You can apply to them for certification. You can study our website, which are very knowledgeable, very informative, and you can understand much more than what we have discussed today. All links, all keys are available there. So I again say, uh, understand the document and then go for a good documentation, which will become a library, which will become a history, which will teach you a lot of things on how to progress further. So thank you very much. This is what I had to discuss with the team. And those who could not join, who had no time to join, maybe they were occupied elsewhere, I do not know. They can always visit our YouTube channel. They can always knowledge attainment process is the one which we are sparing. We remain in the world or not tomorrow, but we will keep on sharing this knowledge level so that our generations will learn out of our website, our webinars, and our channels, and they will become good value addition to the society, to the globe. Thank you, Apur. If anybody has any questions, they can ask, or if it is in chat, you can read, Apur. Thank you.
I haven't received any questions, so I would request the participants that if they have any questions on today's session, they can simply ask those questions in the comment section of this particular video, which will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and we will be really happy answering them. We can now come to the conclusion of this particular session. I would say that I personally have been helped a lot in gaining knowledge about today's topic on how the documentation should be done on integrated management system. I can also say with much confidence that our participants must have enjoyed the context of today's webinar, and it will definitely add value to their expertise and domain of work. I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Mr. Ajay Bajpai, on behalf of TNV Academy for giving your valuable time and accepting our invitation to be the guest speaker for today. I also thank all the participants for taking out time from their busy schedule and joining us in the webinar today. I hope to see you all again soon. Wish you all very best of luck on behalf of TNV Academy for your future endeavors. Thank you once again.